In this video we'll break down how Real Madrid probed the opposition's defence, but how a clever Arsenal team were able to come out on top in this interesting encounter. Real Madrid prepared themselves for a difficult task of clawing back a 3-goal deficit by setting up with a 2-4 structure. Tchouaméni sat at the base of the midfield and he was often joined by Valverde on the right, with Bellingham playing a more advanced role where he could support under Mbappe. Rice and Odegaard carried out defensive responsibilities on the 2 Madrid pivots. Madrid tried to disrupt Arsenal's pressing shape by moving a pivot into advanced areas where they could form triangles, with the fullback and winger on the side, and build combinations. This is when we would often see Madrid target this area with long passes from their penalty box. Madrid had a clear plan to try and overload and isolate the wide areas for the wingers, and one other way in which they wanted to achieve this was to push midfielder Bellingham up alongside Mbappe, as this would occupy all of Arsenal's backline, leaving the fullbacks 1v1 with the wingers. The other advantage to Bellingham's position in the front line, operating close to Mbappe, was that it was risky for the Arsenal centre-backs to track Mbappe out to the left, as this would leave gaps in the defence. This way Mbappe was able to play closer to Vinicius, as they tried to work combinations with Mbappe looking to move into the space behind the fullback when he pushed up on the Brazilian winger. Mbappe likes to peel off to the left where he can cut in on his right foot. Rodrigo held the width on the right and Lucas Vazquez moved into the front line to occupy the Arsenal defence and allow some space to Mbappe. This is when we would see Valverde drop in and cover the right back slot. Lucas Vazquez could then look to exploit the space in between the centre-back and the full-back, but the passes were often overhit. Arsenal looked to prevent Madrid's build-up by restricting passes into the 2 Madrid pivots, by positioning 2 attackers on the pivots, and then using their cover shadow with angled runs towards the ball. This effectively meant that Arsenal covered 4 players with 2, and with Saka and Martinelli covering the Madrid fullbacks, this forced Madrid into longer passes down the line. As we said earlier, Madrid adapted to this a little by positioning a pivot closer to the winger. Madrid started to find a solution to this by bringing Ceballos to play in a double pivot role. The 2 pivots started to widen their starting positions and rotate their movement. With the impetus on Madrid to score, they moved Alaba into advanced positions down the left, and Vinicius could threaten from narrow positions by moving between the Arsenal fullback and centre-back, with Bellingham keen to occupy the focal point. Arsenal were able to deal with this threat with the use of their wingers, Saka and Martinelli, who covered the wide areas, meaning that the back 4 could keep the distance between them tight. Meanwhile, Rice and Partey prevented passes into Bellingham and Mbappe by keeping the distance between them and the centre-backs tight. The Arsenal forwards Mourinho and Odegaard paired up to also prevent Madrid from progressing centrally. This meant that Madrid had to go over or around the Arsenal defensive lines. Alaba frequently probed Arsenal's defence by taking up positions outside so that Madrid could threaten with Vinicius moving inside, but Saka's defensive effort made sure that there was no space to attack and that the Arsenal back 4 could stay compact. Equally, Martinelli's defensive work on the left prevents the overlapping Lucas Vazquez from receiving, leaving Madrid to hit long diagonal balls over the top. Arsenal's defensive organisation really frustrated the Madrid attackers, not able to receive the ball between or behind the 4-4-2 block. Mbappe dropped into deeper positions in front of the block to break up the block, but Declan's Rice off-the-ball awareness tracked runs into the box. This meant that Madrid would shoehorn the ball around the block to a winger, but Arsenal doubled up. Madrid were able to win 10 corners during the match though. Arsenal's build-up shape copied the Madrid 2-4-4 shape, with the fullbacks pushed up into the midfield line, with options for the player with the ball to a fullback or a defensive midfielder, as Madrid's press was not particularly tight. However, with the 3-goal cushion, Arsenal were clearly prepared to be a counter-attacking team in this match by choosing to kick long. The aerial threat of Mourinho and Rice were adept at winning headers, but were happy to give possession to the home team. In controlled possession, Arsenal adapted their shape and moved to a back 3, with Lewis Skelly moving into a central midfield role with Thomas. This gave license to Rice to move into advanced positions and operate closer to Mourinho. He would drop into deeper left positions to receive and build combinations with the dropping Mourinho and Martinelli. Declan Rice's position forced Lucas Vazquez to push up high and Asensio to cover the vacated space on the right, which left huge holes in the Madrid defence for Arsenal to try to exploit. Madrid did not defend with the same organisation as Arsenal's 4-4-2 block, and this allowed Arsenal to move in and occupy the spaces in front of and by the side of Madrid's backline, and this allowed the Arsenal players room to find the perfect pass for Saka to score. This game shows that despite having the better players, a defensive organisation goes a long way to achieving results. PSG will face their third English team in a row in this year's Champions League knockout stage. Will they get the triple? Thanks for watching.